Right. All right. Let's get right into it. Hope you can hear me good. Just wanted to, this is my first live stream I've done in a minute, but I wanted to pop in. And I just wrapped up a conversation with one of my client colleagues. Actually, let me turn the volume down since I'm getting an echo here. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. Just wanted to pop on. I just wrapped up a live stream conversation with one of my clients, published creator Anna Kalschmidt. And we had a great conversation about the process of that, the journey that she and I walked together in helping her develop her book called The Unwritten Rules of Work. I'll put the link in the chat here for you as well. So again, thank you for joining me. I wanted to do this because I want to continue the conversation. And one of the main things that I wanted to share with you about this is um, Anya and I talked a lot about monetization of her book as she was working on it, in addition to some of the experiences that she had with the publisher she worked with in getting the book, the physical copy of the book ready to go. But the focus of this conversation today that I want to have with you is around why most authors never make money from their book. Now, this is the thing. Most authors never make money from their book, and not because the book isn't any good and not because they didn't work hard. And it's definitely, but it's a critical mistake that many make, that they believe that the only way the book can start to monetize is when the book is actually available to hand to someone physically and or download digitally. And I'll say it to be really transparent. I actually at one point made the mistake myself. Many years ago when I self-published my first book. Back then, we didn't have Amazon and all the great tools that we have out here now. And, the internet back then was AOL. So I'm dating myself, but I'm telling the truth about where I was at the time. So it was really kind of, at least in my mindset at the time, it was challenging for me to monetize the book because I was still working on the book. I have since learned that there's many ways and opportunities to monetize your work and make meaningful income actually as you're creating the book, and by, if you set it up properly, being able to get your future buyers of your book to be a part of the process of creating your book. So that's a lot of what I want to talk about, because once you get that shift in your mind that I don't have to wait for the physical book to be in my hand before I can hand it to someone to monetize. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about what I just said. Imagine doing the mental shift between I have to wait until the book is available to purchase before I can start to monetize, to I can actually start, and dare I say, I should start monetizing now as I'm creating the book, as I'm building the book. Now imagine what that would feel like. And the reason why this is a missed opportunity that many entrepreneurs miss is because it's the assumption that I can't make money from this until the book is physically available. And I understand that people give you money, they give us money, and we exchange it for the document, whether it's in physical or it's in digital form. But I'm going to say or suggest or encourage you to shift and think differently about that. Because if you do the things that I'm talking about today, you actually should start monetizing before the book is actually available to receive, and actually use that as a barometer to how well you are doing with your marketing, how well you're doing with your connection with the audience, how you can create experiences that actually will get your audience engaged with you. And that should be happening. Just stop and think about that for a moment. And perhaps this is you. Many entrepreneurs assume that, or they, back it up, they are creating the book because they want to use the book as a calling card. Now, I'm talking about people who are essentially using the book as a lead magnet, if you will. The obvious idea being that Well, I'm using the book to be able to attract prospective clients into my product or the products and or services that I offer. So I can't really talk about any of that until the book is actually available to hand to people. Now, the shift that I did with Anna and the shift that I want to introduce, the shift I want to introduce to you is you actually can start monetizing as the book is in development with something as simple as just one chapter, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. You can create just by providing one chapter, by being able to send people to a landing page, get them on your email list, and start communicating with them. Now, there's more to it than that, but that's the first starting point. And actually, if people aren't even signing up for that, then that's another conversation for another video. But I will say that's the first starting point. Now, in my work as an monetization coach for vision-driven entrepreneurs, I love helping people create. I love helping authors, experts, content creators move beyond just publishing a book. What I laid out a second ago when I talked about sending people to a landing page and giving them a sample chapter of your book, that's the beginning of what I call your author ecosystem. And it's an opportunity that many don't think to do. Again, the marketing, the sales, the acquisition of potential prospects and or clients or customers, many believe can't happen until the book is available to hand to someone. That's the shift I want to encourage you, highly encourage you to shift. And it's actually not really taught a whole lot. Again, there's a lot of focus on getting the book done, but not a lot of conversation happening around what to do as you're building out the book. And if you can build it in a community type of an environment, as what Anna did with her book, it's going to make, first of all, it's going to generate income immediately, months before the book comes out. Two, it's going to be helping you build a better book, emphasis on the word build, a better book because you are not just off on your own, just doing things on your own. You're actually in conversation with the audience of people that you want to work with and attract. They actually will want the book when it's ready. But the services, the experiences, the other things that you have to offer, and if you don't have anything to offer, we can talk about that too. Okay. Now, this is the part that is going to be beginning of the shift. It's what I call the false finish line. The biggest mistake that I have found in my experience with authors make across the board is they treat publishing the book as the finish line. Spend months, sometimes even years working on this project. And then it's finally published on the Holy Grail for many people, Amazon. And then they share a link to your family members and friends, maybe post on social media, feel proud because they've accomplished it, and you should. But then something starts to happen. Typically, not much. Sales kind of start to trickle in. Family and friends, a few people will go and pick up a copy to support you. Not necessarily that they don't find value in what you created, some might, but more often than not, they're buying the book to support you because they care about you. Maybe a few strangers here and there will pick up a copy, but it's really nothing close to what you hoped for. Okay. And then you start to wonder, and maybe you've experienced this already. Did you do something wrong? The sales aren't really coming in. I'm in a KDP Amazon group, and I see post after post after post after post of people who are feeling dejected, disappointed, discouraged, all the D's that you can think of. They poured so much time and energy and effort into this, and it's not reflected in the sales. Or they realize that the amount of money that they actually are making, even though they may be proud of what they've accomplished, but the amount of money that they're making is kind of falling short. Because on average, you're making anywhere from between maybe 4, 5, maybe 6, $7 per unit. Depends upon how you price the book and what the cost is to print. And I'm speaking specifically about the Amazon KDP platform in this part of the conversation. And then you have to wait 30 to 60, sometimes 90 days to get paid. That's a lot of effort and energy to expend for something that sometimes can feel like very little reward. And when I looked at that paradigm, I looked at that structure, I said, we need to flip that because income should be coming in not after the book is done, but while you're creating your book. But for many people, that's a hard one to wrap their head around because you feel like, well, I don't have anything to give someone, so how can I charge? But someone who is just focusing on becoming an author would think that way. But someone who adopts the identity and integrates the identity of an authorpreneur makes the decision that they have offers or can create offers that are monetizable offers that can be happening. And the actual creation of the book itself is a part of the marketing. And that's a different way to think about it. That's a different shift from the way that typically we're taught to create a book. Okay. Because this is a reality, as I just mentioned some numbers a moment ago. The book is rarely what makes the money. The physical acquisition of a book, someone gives you money for the book, it's not really always the thing that makes a lot of money, but it is the doorway. It is the doorway. And it's an authority builder. It can be that, but more to the point, more importantly, it's a conversation starter and it's a trust accelerator. Because the real opportunity comes from what the book makes possible. And I want to say that again. The real opportunity for my clients, the people I work with, and what I'm encouraging you to do, comes from what the book makes possible. The relationships that can come out of the experience. Yes, the clients that can come out of this, the speaking opportunities, the partnerships that can come out of this. And it all can happen when you set up an ecosystem, meaning that you are curating the experience for your future readers long before the book is actually available to hand to someone. And that's what circles back to the start of the conversation with my client, Anna. She had the social media following at the time when we first started working together, over 25,000 followers on TikTok. But her email list was barely over 100. I immediately looked at that and said, 25,000 followers on TikTok, but only 100 names on your email list, something's not adding up. There was no invitation to bring them from that platform into that ecosystem, into her ecosystem. And we had to set an ecosystem up. And that started with a dedicated landing page where we could give them a chapter of the book and then take it a step further by inviting them into having a two-way conversation. A two-way conversation. And in that two-way conversation, now it helped to make the manuscript better and opened up an opportunity for her to monetize as she was still working on the book. And just setting up that one piece allowed her to generate a few $1,000s right away. Typically, most authors would not think that way. So I proved my hypothesis that if we created an experience based on the manuscript that was being created, that yes, indeed, monetization was available immediately, not later. And quite frankly, it should be available immediately, not later. Because if that's not kind of happening, you might want to take a look back and make sure, okay, it may not be that the manuscript is not right, but it could be the way you're talking about it, the way you're positioning it. could be off. And it's in that understanding of the conversation that then you can begin to make pivots and adjustments if need necessary with intel that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise had you not been in communion with the people that you're most here to serve with your work. Okay. Now, I want to share a personal story with me about this. I actually have written and published several books of my own and many for my clients over the last 30 years. And in 2020, I lost my father to a lengthy battle with Alzheimer's. And I was going through a very challenging time. It was during the pandemic. I wasn't even able to even go to his, services. And I was going through a really rough time emotionally, as we all were. And I needed an outlet, something to channel my energy. And because I had been involved at the, art, design, photography, publishing, I decided to put all of that energy into a project to help give me some place to focus. So I focused on creating actually an adult coloring book called Never Too Late to Make It Happen. And I created the book because I've always loved art, publishing, design, imagery, writing, all of it. And I knew all of that can be channeled into a book. And so I did that and I put it up on Amazon. And I really didn't talk about it. I really didn't do a whole lot with it. I think it was giving me a place to go with it. And so after I did that, I said, I want to start having conversations around the process of creating this type of book. Again, I'd been involved in indirectly and directly with publishing for many years. So I set up a Facebook community and had over 1,000 people join. And we just started having a conversation like I was hungry for connection. And it was in that process that I began to understand that it wasn't about the book. It was about who I was becoming as a result of creating the book and the people that I was inviting into my ecosystem, into my world, were connecting with me because of my story, were connecting with me because of the way I was showing up. And as a result of that, I started my first business around the subject of using coloring as a way to manage stress, as a way to deal with grief, as a way to express with the minimal amount of things. Like, I want to do something artistic, but I didn't want to deal with paints and all that stuff. Pencils and a book, that's all I needed. I wanted something simple. And it was through that experience that I began to understand the power of experiences. So while the book itself did not make a lot of money because I really wasn't pushing it, the experience I created around the subject and around the book itself is what created connection. And it was through that I created my first business. It was around just getting together and just coloring. And I ran that for a year. Now, again, because I'm entrepreneurial minded, because I've always been involved in publishing in one form or another, or around books in one form or another, I said, I want to help other people create their book. And I started out focusing on coloring books. And I did a presentation that then offered people an opportunity to work with me and help them get the book idea out of their heads and into their hands within a designated amount of time. Now, over the last 3 years, as a result of starting that program, along with ones I am now moved into now, that has resulted in well over 35, almost 40 something thousand dollars in sales as a result, not from book sales itself, but because of my passion for teaching, design, coaching, supporting creatives to get their vision out of their head and into their hands. So while I never focused on selling copies of the book, I've made well into five figures as I was able to encapsulate all of the things about me into that experience. Now, I'm sharing this with you because I encourage you to follow the same identity. What experiences can you create around the book topic itself or around the process of the journey to create the book that you are creating or have worked or are working on? And that's an identity shift. That's going to require you to think differently about who you are and how you're showing up. And I'm going to go so far as to say this is where the fun really can come in. So, at the core, this I want to introduce you to the authorpreneur identity, because this is where the real distinction happens. This is the difference between being an author and being an entrepreneur. An author publishes a book and hopes it sells. An entrepreneur publishes a book and builds an ecosystem around it. They understand that the book is not the business. The book does build authority, though. But even bigger than authority, authority builds trust. I could not have achieved what I've achieved with this had I not put myself in front. I wasn't hiding behind my book. I put myself in front of it. And as a result of putting myself in front of it, people were able to connect with me. And that, for those who take this journey and who are successful physically, emotionally, financially, they are willing to do that. They are willing to show up and continue to show up, sometimes until the audience catches up. But when they do that, more income is available, more experiences are available, because you develop an ecosystem where people feel safe connecting with you and they want to connect with you. That's the key I want you to get out of this. It's not really about the book. It's about who you will become as a result of walking this journey. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Because this shift in thinking, it changes everything. Okay. So again, I want to encourage you to stop focusing on how many copies of the book can I sell? Or how can I get this, hurry me get this book done so I can sell a bunch of copies of it? I want you to shift that to asking yourself, what doors can this open? And who can this help? And in what ways can I help them? There's a book by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy called Who Not How. I'll put the link in there. I can't recommend this book highly enough. When you start asking who and not stop asking how, but start asking who, the who shows up. And for you watching this, whether you're here with me live or watching the replay, I may be your who. I'm just putting that out there. The next thing is, what ecosystem can I build around this? Foundationally, you got to start having some kind of an email list. These platforms are not always going to be available to us. They change every single moment of the day. I don't care. I'm not going to name any. We all know anything can change on a dime. Facebook groups get shut down. TikTok is going through changes right now. They change format, they change ownership. We don't know. Even the printing companies change. We must have other alternatives available at the ready so that if something does happen over here, we're ready to go over here. Pivot is your new favorite word, by the way. Okay. So that's a part of your ecosystem, having an email list, because you can always reach out to them. If you can't always find them on Facebook or any social media platform because the algorithm changes, you can still reach out to them through your email list. And dare I say, the second half of that is have some kind of a community. I like school a lot. I'll put the link in how to join my school community if you're interested in doing that. So building an ecosystem, and then realizing that your book becomes something bigger than the book itself. And this to me is where the real juice, this is where the real sauce comes in. Because when you think about it, this is something bigger than just the book. It takes on a life of its own. It becomes a part of your movement. Yes, it establishes your authority. And dare I say, it becomes a part of your legacy. Okay. So this is exactly why I created the Authorpreneur Decision. This is a live event that I experience, I like to call it, that I offer where I deep dive into. You've gotten value out of what I shared. I deep dive into this much more depth in this live experience. Because again, I know this from my own personal experience. There comes a moment where every single author has to decide, am I just publishing a book or am I building something bigger? And if that message resonates with you, you're in the right place. So again, I'm going to be deep diving into this even further into this new experience that I've created. Again, it is happening at the time I'm recording this. It is happening on Wednesday, February the 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes I have a featured keynote speaker that will come onto the call. Sometimes it's just me, but it's all good either way. And I encourage you to come and join me. If you've gotten value out of what I shared today, I encourage you to come and join me and your other fellow entrepreneurs and use this as a time to really start to think about, how am I approaching this project? How am I doing this in a way where I feel like I'm not alone in it? You know, I've been around writing and publishing for many years. And while I love the process of it, I love the feel and the journey of taking words that are coming through you and putting them on paper, whether you're writing it out freehand or whether you are putting it in a computer or on your phone. But there's something about doing it with a curated, again, that word again, curated group of people that get you, that get what you're saying, that get what you're talking about, that want to be a part of that process and a part of that journey with you. And so if this is resonating with you, I want to show you how you can begin to create that for yourself so that your journey into coming from someone who is writing a book to building an experience that is based around what you're working on can be so much more richer financially, creatively, dare I say, emotionally and spiritually. So if that resonates with you, again, I want to invite you to come to the experience. Again, I will put the link in the description. I'll also put it down in the comments. And I'd love to have you as my guest and come and join. And I want to leave it with this. Your book, our books are not the finish line, but they are the doorway. And if you're willing to step through it, that is your first authorpreneur decision. So thank you so much for watching and listening. I'd love to get your feedback and comments on it. And I will see you on the next Rodney Coaches Live on YouTube. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be starting to do this on a regular basis. So I will be doing this again. So look forward to more of this conversation. All righty. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And I hope to see you at the Authorpreneur Decision event. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.